Hello, I'm Dr. Phil Hulbig, and welcome to this overview of my book, The Pedagogy of Self-Authorship, the Neurocognitive Impact of Science in Metacognition. This is an overview of the book with links to the videos that I've made on some of the big ideas for students and readers. These videos cover one of the two vital pieces of metacognition, and those are metacognitive knowledge, which is what we know about our knowing and how our brain and mind all kind of work together, and metacognitive regulation, which is how well you actually control your behavior in real time. Metacognitive knowledge is largely what the first half of the book is about. I run down the science that is known about learning and my own research into metacognition, both from a personally embodied standing point as a person with a learning disability, but also as a researcher and a special educator. I start the book with a thought experiment about how teaching pedagogy might have evolved back in the days of our ancient ancestors, when education was likely squarely focused on survival and how to live. The ability to come up with sophisticated and standardized ways of teaching younger generations important concepts and skills could have been a determining factor for which communities of early humans would have thrived and which communities would have struggled. It's easy to imagine how structures like the Lascaux caves were used as sites of learning, where metaphors of spiritual understanding of nature mixed with the practical survival needs to communicate life's patterns and cycles to others. The earliest teachers would have been tasked with the struggle to communicate these abstractions that had never been before described, and tell about the patterns that they were noticing in the behavior of nature and their fellow tribesmen before there were actual words settled for these phenomena. How did those first learning conversations that occurred right at the opening edge of human linguistic development actually go? How would you communicate ideas about actions, particularly future occurrences, without ever hearing someone describe something like that before? Well, the thing is, we actually can still end up in this situation today. And when we end up in a new experience where we don't have the words for what is happening, we likely do the same thing that they did all those thousands of years ago. We use a metaphor. They just wouldn't have used so many words. They would, we have a lot of words to choose from today. They would have had to use other metaphorical styles, like creating an experience to help their students learn better. And if you think about it, we still build pretty big structures whose purpose is education, like the Lascaux caves. Some could be among our most lasting structures in an archaeological sense. From here, I cover metacognition from many perspectives in scientific fields, talking about metacognition in ancient history, as well as its modern developments and refinements, focusing on the developments in psychology with people like John Flavell, Nelson, and Narens. I, of course, cover the learning and educational perspectives, but I also spend a lot of time talking about the neurology, because by understanding neurology, we can come to understand that there are all kinds of different ways to think. Two things I also talk about deeply are neuroplasticity and what that means for learning and development. But I also talk a good bit about artificial intelligence and what that tells us about our own human intelligence in learning. I talk about what we know from consciousness studies and even the potential role of quantum mechanics in learning and information processing. So there is a lot here, which is why I made so many videos. However, realize that a truly complete review of human knowledge about knowledge, I think you could imagine, would be pretty tough to capture. So this is just my humble best attempt. Now, the second half of the book covers regulation aspects by diving into the pedagogical approaches of teaching metacognition or learning about learning, as my great teacher, Dr. Gertrude Webb, taught me. From all of this research, I synthesize a foundational approach to teaching metacognition that is simple and clear and will enable anyone who really wants to be a support to the learning and development of another person by helping them develop the basic skills of problem solving needed for the development of self-authorship. This approach is called the general theory of metacognitive instruction, or GET-ME for short. The main components of this theory are briefly described here. I also do a short reading of the last chapter of the book where I share a metacognitive investigation of the resiliency to be neurodivergent. So I thank you for watching, and hit like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Thank you.